What's up, fake baseballers? How you doing? My name is Greg Smith. Welcome to the Fake Baseball. This is my first draft video of the 2016 fantasy baseball season. Well, technically it's my second. I tried to record one with Zach a couple weeks ago and lost it in the editing process. Computers are a fickle bunch, those PCs. Anyway, trying to record another one right now. Just an ESPN standard league, keeping it simple, making sure I'm not trying to allocate too many resources on my computer this time around. Anyway, we drew the 11th pick out of 12 here. First four picks were Trout, Goldschmidt, Harper, and then Altuve. That is the highest I have seen Altuve go. And there goes Giancarlo Stanton. Pretty high for him as well. Usually you see some of these other guys pop in there. Kershaw, the third baseman like Donaldson. Sometimes the shortstop, Machado and Correa get up into those, top 5, top 6 picks. There goes Kershaw. I'm kind of excited that I drew the 11th pick here. Most of my mocks so far this year I've been drafting in the middle or up at the top, and the middle's just kind of boring. The top is kind of predictable, at least in the early going. You know who to expect. Down here at the bottom end of the first round, and that top of the second round, I feel like you get more values in the first round, whereas if you have the 5th pick or the 6th pick, you kind of have to plant your flag on a certain player who you think is going to be better, than the rest of the first round talents. And when you get to sit this low down, you kind of just get to mop up whoever's left. So 2 picks more before I come up here. I'm eyeing Machado and Correa. Mostly, chalk picks so far. Matt Kemp. Okay, we got one joker in the draft. That's too bad. This is a public league. This is the stuff you deal with. But if you're watching this, maybe you play in these sorts of leagues for fun too. And anyway, Kemp and McCutchen gone. I will gladly take Manny Machado here, or will I? I forget sometimes that Machado doesn't have shortstop eligibility. I typically draft on Yahoo, and I know that their position eligibility rules are a little silly. I haven't drafted Correa anywhere yet this season, so let's give him a shot. We'll try something new. I was kind of hoping that Arenado would fall down to me there. He's one of my favorite fantasy baseball players, but, missed out on him. After I took Correa, there goes Scherzer and Arrieta, so this guy on the wheel here is doing a little experimenting himself. That's okay with me. I get to take Manny Machado in the second round. So Correa, Machado, got my third base and shortstop all set. I really like that, actually. Those are the 2 thinnest positions, I believe, in fantasy baseball. And locking those both up right away is nice, especially in a league like this where you do have to start a middle infielder and a quarter infielder. And this is one thing I do love about the ESPN standard leagues relative to Yahoo, is that they do make the rosters a little bigger. 5 outfielders, these flexi infield spots, whereas on Yahoo, you just get an extra utility and you only start 3 outfielders. It's kind of silly. I mean, I understand that they want to keep it simple for some drafters, but I mean, adding a couple outfield spots and these extra, middle infield, corner infield spots, they don't make the game too much more complex, and they allow you to draft more guys that you want to have. It's like, I don't get excited about the same infield every time. Like, I don't necessarily want to keep drafting the same 5 to 10 guys over and over again. I want to be in certain leagues where I'm, forced to stretch a little bit beyond my means. Maybe I'm alone on that. Maybe that's not what your average, simple drafter or casual drafter wants. But eventually, I think if you're a baseball fan, you want to be more engaged. You want to have more options. You want to care about more players. And having this extra roster spots allows you to do that. Anyway, we'll take a break. We'll come back in the third round when it's closer to my pick. This will be the last time I announce that. I almost always announce it when I do these videos, but I'm going to try to cut that out just to keep it shorter as I ramble on and on. Anyway, we'll catch you in just a minute. Okay, let's recap some of the picks since we left off here. After I took Machado, it was Batista, Pujols, Cabrera, D. Gordon, Greinke, Edwin Encarnacion, Chris Bryant, Todd Frazier, A.J. Pollock, Robinson Cano, Buster Posey, Jose Abreu, Anthony Rizzo, Chris Davis, Chris Sale, and Adrian Gonzalez. 4 picks left before I come up. I kind of forgot about Chris Bryant when I made my last 2 picks. I actually have him ranked a little bit higher, I believe, than Machado, although I will admit that they're all pretty interchangeable, again, after those top 3 guys. My main goal when I'm doing drafts now at this point is to kind of diversify those early round picks and make sure I pick up, different shares of different guys so that I'm not, completely screwed everywhere if one of those guys gets hurt. With that said, there's no reason that Chris Davis should be going that late. Starling Marte was just selected. I've queued up a bunch of players here. The top of the ESPN ranks are Mookie Betts, JD Martinez, and Joey Votto. All three of those guys would be fine picks here. I also have George Springer and Justin Upton queued up. I have Betts and Springer significantly higher than Upton, but that's who I'm kind of targeting here. There goes Betts. That's way too late for him as well. Third round is a very nice value for that caliber of player. If Springer doesn't make it to me here, I'm probably looking at Votto, maybe JD Martinez. There goes Corey Seager, Jonathan Lucroy. Is that the same guy who took Matt Kemp? I have a feeling it is. It is not. Interesting. That is a very early selection of a catcher, especially one named Jonathan Lucroy. But I got my wish here. I will be taking George Springer as my first outfielder. I have three very solid power speed guys, which I like a lot. Batting average, Springer's not the greatest there, but Machado and Correa should buoy him a little bit in that regard. So let's take Springer, see what this guy on the wheel does. He took two pitchers last time. I'm assuming he'll probably take hitters now. And, looking at who's left, maybe he made the right choice. I mean, he's getting Joey Votto potentially at the end of the third round. Like, that's a pretty good value. There goes Springer onto our squad. And we'll see what this guy does. I would gladly take Votto here if he does not. He took Charlie Blackmon with one of his picks. Votto is my 21st ranked player overall. I recently wrote up a piece with Justin Klein at the Fake Baseball regarding the stock of Adam Jones. And that's only, that's the bulk of the article. But in there, I do talk about how I generally rank pitchers a little bit lower than most people. I don't think there's any reason to take a guy like Kershaw in the first round when you can, wait around and take Chris Sale or Max Scherzer, or, you can wait 3 rounds and still get, the guys who are available now, Bumgarner, Price, Garrett Cole, Corey Kluber. Like, these guys are all fine. I'm going to pass on pitchers with this pick as well. I'm going to take Votto. I'm trying to assemble a very, very oppressive offense. I want to dominate all of the hitting categories. And then through streaming and through, smart matchup plays with pitchers, be competitive in pitching categories as well. I find that it's much easier to stream the pitching positions than it is to stream hitting positions without ruining something like your batting average. I think this is an annual occurrence in fantasy baseball. I don't really understand why this season so many people are, hot to take starting pitchers in the first 3 to 4 rounds. Typically the run starts in round 3, continues into round 4. We'll probably see it start now because in addition to Blackmon, the guy on the turn took Matt Harvey, and right after I took Joey Votto, David Price went. I have a feeling it's just people freaking out. It's another one of those things. It's unique to drafting that when you start to see these guys go, you worry you're not going to get one, and it makes you jump on a bandwagon when in actuality, maybe it's more correct to take a player who's not in that camp, go the other way, and see who's falling because all these other people are rushing to take pitchers. And hopefully we can capitalize on that next round. Okay, let's see. The picks after I took Votto were Price, Melky Cabrera, what a joker, Troy Tulowitzki, Carlos Gonzalez, Alex Rodriguez, Miguel Sano, Madison Bumgarner, JD Martinez, Garrett Cole, Kenley Jansen, Wade Davis, Corey Kluber, Jake DeGrom, Carlos Gonzalez, Yoenis Cespedes, and Yasiel Puig. 4 picks before I'm up here. 1 apparent auto drafter. Maybe that's the guy who's screwing around. Who knows? Let's look at his team. No, maybe just a LA fan. Pujols, Seager, Kemp, and the Milkman. Anyway, we're still working with Votto, Machado, Correa, and George Springer. Justin Upton is the top of my ranks, which is what I have over here on the left side of the screen. These are available at the Fake Baseball and on Fantasy Pros. We're looking at the Fantasy Pros ranker right here, actually. After Upton, I have Adam Jones, who, as I discussed earlier, I debated over with Justin and Ryan Braun. Mostly outfielders here at the top of my ranks. Jason Hayward, Lorenzo Cain, Nelson Cruz. With that in mind, it might be time to actually think about taking a pitcher with one of these two selections. Carlos Carrasco, Chris Archer, Steven Strasburg, all viable fantasy aces. And lo and behold, look, they're available here in the 5th round. So I did not have to sacrifice these offensive talents to get a good pitcher if I wanted one. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your drafts. Justin Upton probably still would be one of my picks if he makes it here. Just another power speed guy, a guy that's going to kind of chip in across the board. Not a great average, but I do have Votto, Machado, and Correa, as discussed earlier, to kind of prop him and Springer up. You can't take on too many, liabilities in the batting average department like that. But, you can take on one or two as long as you're cognizant of, taking other players who are going to, pick them back up and make sure at least you don't finish last in the category. So after Puig, it was Dallas Keuchel, Jose Fernandez, Brian McCann, and Felix Hernandez. So a lot of very strange picks going on. This is what you get when you're in a public league. But, it is what it is. I'm going to take Upton. We'll see what our friend on the turn here does. And because I don't think he's going to take both Archer and Carrasco, who I believe are the top of my pitchers rankings. I think I have Carrasco literally one spot higher in my overall than Chris Archer. They feel pretty similar to me this season. I could really gamble and just take another hitter, probably Adam Jones. But, if you want to know why I like Adam Jones, go ahead and read the piece. At this point, he's an awesome value. I don't think he should still be on the board. He did take Chris Archer, so that leaves it to me to decide between taking Carrasco or another offensive player, another outfielder. I mean, the way this draft is going, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to draft circles around the entire room if I want to, which means I can expect to find value, at any position later in the draft if I am interested in doing so. But, I think my offense is looking pretty legit at this point. I'm going to take a pitcher, at least, solidify myself with one quality arm, and we'll see what happens next round. A lot of good guys still available. I mean, and a lot of guys who are a little undervalued based upon ESPN's rankings. I threw them in the queue here a little bit. Mostly pitchers that I want to target later, but I do have Gregory Polanco, Michael Brantley, Michael Franco, all tagged as offensive guys who are ranked a little bit too low in my estimation. So stay tuned. We'll recap in just a sec. Okay, recapping. Matt Carpenter, Kyle Seager, Adam Jones, Kyle Schwarber, Howie Kendrick, Lorenzo Cain, Strasburg, Syndergaard, David Ortiz, Brian Dozier, Prince Fielder, Adrian Beltre, Francisco Lindor, Ryan Braun, Craig Kimbrell. That's pretty late for Braun. 7th round, excuse me. I'm not a big fan, but I'd take him in this round, that's for sure. 5 picks here. Looks like 1, maybe 2 auto drafters in that span, including one guy who drafts a lot of LA dudes. Adrian Gonzalez, Howie Kendrick, Puig, A-Rod, Clayton Kershaw, Zach Greinke. Maybe he's just trying to troll all the Giants fans here like me. Good luck winning the league with that squad, dude. Anyway, who are we looking at here? Well, still have some outfielders at the top of the queue. Jason Hayward, Gregory Polanco. Below that, Freddie Freeman, Danny Salazar, Xander Bogaerts, Brandon Belt. Then Jacoby Ellsbury, who I don't really want to take in this context. I have plenty of speed as it is with the guys I've drafted. I'd rather focus a little bit more on power if I'm going for offensive players. Power plus average if possible. A guy like Freddie Freeman is appealing for that reason. Bogaerts is also appealing. I don't really like to lock down middle infield this early, but if it's a shortstop and I can kind of close out a tier of players like that, that's something that is appealing to me. I like to do that, if only to put strain on the rest of the teams to, play worse guys in those spots. But with that said, Hayward is the top of my rankings. If he makes it here, I'm likely to take him. I would not be opposed to taking a pitcher here, although it looks like those guys are flying off the board. But there goes Ian Kinsler and Freddie Freeman. Not a whole lot hurting me there. I think that's a little too early for Kinsler. Second base is very, very easy to fill. with a guy who's going to be, at least half decent. There goes Johnny Cueto, and there goes Bogarts to the auto drafter. So he's a true auto draft at this point. He's just getting the top of the ranks until his roster is filled out. And what do you know? My rankings line up with ESPN's. Jason Hayward is at the top. I am going to draft him right now. Now, what to do with this next pick is a little more debatable. 3 outfielders in tow at this point. I don't feel that it's very imperative to grab a 4th just yet. I do still have corner and middle infield to fill. Adam Eaton and Trevor Rosenthal were just taken. So top of my ranks is Gregory Polanco. Below that is Danny Salazar. And Salazar is a little ways down here in terms of the Yahoo ranks. I don't really know if I want to draft both Cleveland starters. I might be better served by taking John Lester. And this is one way that, rankings can kind of fall apart, is after a while, your team need starts to demand more than what your rankings dictate. Other guys I'd consider here are Polanco and Michael Brantley, but also Michael Franco, who is buried a little further in ESPN's rankings. So I think I can wait on him. He's ranked 121 on ESPN. So for me, it comes down to Lester, Polanco, Brantley, or Salazar. You know what? I'm just going to take the top-ranked pitcher on my board, and that's Salazar. I think I might be overthinking the double Cleveland aspect of this. Both these guys are just high K pitchers, and that's what I want for my early picks. We'll see how these next 2 rounds play out. We got a lot of auto drafters at this point, so it might just be more fun to jump into a new draft and get started again. This team is pretty unstoppable. I'm basically the king of the drafters in this room, but when things get a little wonky like this, when it becomes a bunch of auto picks, these things start to lose their appeal, and they become a lot less interesting because you're not drafting against real people, you're drafting against the default rankings, and that's not helpful. If you're in a room with a bunch of your buddies, they're not going to be taking, the top ranked guy every time. That's just not how fantasy baseball works in real life. It's too bad that these sites can't figure out a way to kind of eliminate this sort of stuff from happening in the public leagues. Like, if you're going to do this in the mock draft lobby, by all means, have a blast signing up and then deleting it after you don't get, one player you wanted or something. I don't know why people do this. Anyway, I'm ranting at this point. Be back in a sec. So after I took Salazar, the next picks were Kipnis, Sonny Gray, Adam Wainwright, John Lester, Evan Longoria, Aroldis Chapman, Ken Giles, Cody Allen, David Peralta, Brandon Belt, Jacoby Ellsbury, Ben Revere, Zach Britton, Hunter Pence. And now we have to wait before it's our turn to draft again. Closer run has begun. There goes Garrett Richards. That's a nice pick. Justin Turner, to I'm sure the Dodgers guy. Gregory Polanco. Michael Brantley is still sitting at the top of the rankings here. Our friend at the end of the draft here has only taken outfielders and pitchers, so he's clearly experimenting. I am not totally sure what we're going to do here. I could see myself avoiding the outfielders if they both make it back to me. I mean, we might expect him to take those guys because he's only taken pitchers and outfielders so far. But I would like to get Michael Franco on the books here. I'm wondering if I can, let him slide one more round to slot into my corner infield spot. I can also, take another pitcher here. The top guys I have ranked are, I believe, Tyson Ross, Taijuan Walker, Carlos Martinez, those sorts of players, Carlos Rodon. This is usually when I tend to fill out my starting staff. Draft a bunch of guys who haven't quite made the leap to, top 20 starter yet, but I expect them to, or, if they don't, who cares? Drop them and start streaming. That's what pitching is all about, in my opinion. After Richards was taken and Turner, there went Brandon Crawford. 3 picks up here before it's me, 1 auto drafter. So Gregory Polanco likely not going to make it here. Michael Brantley, though, very well might, and if he does, I think he's going to be my pick. He's another really good batting average guy. I don't know if he's going to have quite the power, although he just got selected, and there goes Polanco to the auto drafter. So that makes it easy. Franco is not taken here by this grayed out drafter right here. I will select him, and we'll see what happens at the wheel here. I know I talked about not taking a second baseman early. With that said, Anthony Rendon is the top of my rankings after Michael Franco, so I am inclined to follow those, to be honest, if only because I have Rendon ranked where he is. The reason I don't usually advocate drafting him is because he goes higher than where I have him ranked. If I can get him in this spot, then that's a value to me, and I would like to draft him. So while I don't necessarily preach drafting second baseman early, if you can get a good guy at a fair price, there's nothing wrong with that. That is fine. Definitely need to start addressing pitching sooner rather than later. I'm not super excited about spending these next 2 picks on offensive players and leaving myself with only 2 pitchers. But again, I feel like I can find the values from the pitching positions moving forward. It does seem like we're going to have more and more auto drafters. Probably do these 2 rounds, maybe a couple more to see what pitchers make it back. And then if things are a little too hairy, we still have too many auto drafters, we'll just either call it quits or try to start a new draft. We'll see how it goes. We want to keep things interesting, that's for sure. Kristen Yelich was the pick that was made, and now that gentleman or gentlewoman is on auto draft. Fun times. Thanks for showing up, everybody. Really, really great job, everyone. I'm going to say Franco, and hopefully Rendon makes it back to me here with the 110th pick at the beginning of the 10th round. That is uncommon for most of the real leagues I've been drafting. These public leagues get a little silly. Our friend at the wheel continues to take only pitchers and outfielders. Corey Dickerson and Mark Melancon have been selected. So, yeah, I'll take Rendon. Welcome to the team, Anthony. In terms of offense, all we have left to fill are catcher, middle infield, outfield, and utility spots, and then a bunch of pitching spots. The way I've constructed this team, just heavy offense in the first rounds, would incline me to take more pitchers for these 3 bench spots, so you can stream guys in and out. One strategy I've seen implemented very well in these ESPN public leagues is to go heavy on closers, to spend on some of the elite guys, your Kenley Jansen's and such. Basically rack up a ton of saves and then just stream like crazy. There is a starts limit for each team in ESPN standard leagues, so you can't go too crazy with streaming. But if you're keeping your ratios down and piling up the saves with 4 to 6 closers, then you can really dominate those categories as well. So even if you're not hyper competitive in strikeouts and wins, you just need to be competitive enough after starting a really good offense and maybe getting like a handful of good closers with maybe one elite one. It really only works in this type of league where the benches are really thin and you're incentivized to stream anyway. But I have seen that work to some success in past leagues. Just recapping the picks we've missed since I took Rendon. It was Rougned Odor, Carlos Martinez, and Dustin Pedroia. We'll see who gets picked after that in a minute. All right, so the next picks were Odor, Carlos Martinez, Dustin Pedroia. We talked about those already. Billy Hamilton, Mark Teixeira, Cole Hamels, DJ LeMahieu, David Robertson, Cole Calhoun, Marcus Stroman, Tyson Ross, Hanley Ramirez, Randall Grichuk, Billy Burns, and Colton Wong. A couple auto drafters here coming up. If we look at the top of the rankings, that means that, what does that mean? That means that Evan Gattis and Juris Familia are not going to make it to me here in this spot. I'm looking at pitchers. I'm looking at Drew Smiley, who's ranked higher on ESPN than some of the other guys I want, but I can wait on them because they won't need to be drafted for a little while. I'm also looking at these closers, Hector Rondon, AJ Ramos. They're kind of like the bottom end of the the good closers, the guys who rack up a lot of strikeouts, but aren't as high profile as some of the other guys that you have to spend higher picks on. These are guys that I tend to target, across all leagues. I don't usually end up with both of them. I don't know if I'd draft 2 here back to back with these picks, but they're both on my radar if they make it here to me in the 11th round. Other guys kind of up in the ESPN rankings that are worth considering: Shark, Jeff Samardzija. A little further down here, Kevin Pillar, Jose Quintana. Michael Wacha ranked a little too low for my taste. I'd probably have him above some of these other pitchers. Let's see. What else are we looking at here? There's Raisel Iglesias. He's been, kind of a hot topic. Jake McGee is another one of those closers who you can kind of get a little bit later but might deliver just awesome results if he holds the job all year. Delano DeShields is an outfielder I really like, kind of like Kevin Pillar. Good speed, a little bit of pop. Pillar's probably got more pop than DeShields, but I trust Delano to maybe stay at the top of the lineup more than I do Pillar. I think the Blue Jays lineup is good enough to the point where Pillar might not lead off all season, especially if he starts to slump or anything like that. Travis d'Arnaud is way down here. He's probably my favorite catcher to draft. He actually is, according to my rankings, the top ranked player on my board, which probably means that I have him ranked too high. I should probably move all the catchers down if that's the case. But I like him a lot. I like him more than Kyle Schwarber. That's just me being strange, I guess. But I like d'Arnaud a lot. Anyway, what are we doing here? Got a catcher, middle infield, some outfield spots to fill. We can look specifically at outfielders to see who's left. I mean, honestly, Pillar and DeShields are probably the guys I like the most. But, there are enough other guys that are probably worth waiting on here, although it is thinning out to some extent. Pillar's not a bad play here. Neither is Shin-Soo Choo, just another kind of all-around contributor. But I do think I'm going to make my first pick be Smiley. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to take a closer. I'm going to take Rondon. Kind of practice what I preached with that little diatribe about, ways to win an ESPN Public League, draft a lot of closers. There's still a lot of pitchers I like left, and, with Carrasco and Salazar on the roster already, I'm not super incentivized to take Drew Smiley. Like, I actually have Taijuan Walker ranked higher than Smiley, and Taijuan Walker is way down here. So that's nothing to really worry about. Our friend at the end of the draft took another pitcher, Francisco Rodriguez, and then he took Francisco Liriano. So now he's hoarding Franciscos. Francisco. That's a fun name to say. Anyway, what do we want to do here? Do I want to take another outfielder? It's not a bad idea. Pillar, definitely interesting. I think I can pass on Pillar because I can probably just get to Shields later. I think it's probably best just to take another pitcher. I'll take Smiley, thinking that, Walker's going to make it back. And then at that point, maybe I'll take one of those outfielders if they're still left. This is tough. Kind of torn here. I'm thinking about maybe taking this other closer, taking Ramos as well as Rondon. Yeah, let's see how it works. It's good to play around, try different strategies. No two teams need to be exactly the same. That would be no fun. We're really in auto pick craziness right now, so there won't be a whole lot of time for me to wait between picks, which will make this go fast, but I don't want to have you guys sit through too much of a slog of a video. I think we'll make the next two picks, rounds 13 and 14, and then we'll probably call it quits. I'll probably finish out the draft as needed, but we don't need to record those picks because we're not getting a really good draft experience at this point. Anyway, yeah, be right back with the next set of picks. All right, so the picks we missed after the Ramos pick were Samardzija, Chu, Darvish, Smiley, Verlander, Byung-Ho Park, Michael Wacha, Daniel Murphy, Elvis Andrus, Ben Zobrist, Brad Ziegler, Neil Walker, Jose Quintana, and Travis d'Arnaud. Then Brett Gardner. So we missed out on d'Arnaud. We missed out on Smiley. That's okay. Like I said, there's still pitchers that I have ranked higher available. I've put a bunch of them into the queue here. This is what I'll be drafting with going forward. All outfielders up at the top here, pitchers down below. This isn't necessarily, the order I'd make the picks. This is just kind of to keep track of who's available, who I like, and who I want to draft going forward. I find that when you do these sorts of drafts, it's good to have some amount of organization down here that isn't just pure rankings, because eventually your, like in this case, your team kind of dictates what you need. And for me, that's pitching and outfielders. Utility player as well would, be worth consideration. But you can kind of track those one-of positions that you need just by looking at the overall group of players who are available. So right now, if I wanted to take Kendrys Morales as my DH for the utility spot, I could do that. What's more likely is that he's going to end up going to one of these auto draft teams. And sure enough, there goes Russell Martin and Kendrys Morales. We have one more real drafter here before two auto pickers. The auto pickers are probably going to end up with Kevin Pillar and Michael Pineda, I believe. Yes, that's what appears to be the case. So much for getting Pillar. I was kind of hoping he'd make it back. That's okay because Jock Peterson and Delano Shields are still available. As far as the pitchers go, I have pulled up my rankings here on the left-hand side. This is as of today, March 23rd, as I'm drafting. I'll be shifting some of these guys around. I know that even based upon this draft, I'm kind of noticing some guys that I have ranked, in a certain spot, but then I look at who's below them and they go, yeah, I really wouldn't actually take so-and-so over this player. One of those might be, let's just use an example. This Tyson Ross ranking feels a little high to me, but I probably won't move him because that's probably where he deserves to be. He's just not the type of player I like. He walks a few too many batters for my taste. Anyway, there goes Starlin Castro, Kevin Pillar, and Michael Pineda as predicted, leaving it to me for a couple picks here. I think we can assume that our friend at the end will take outfielders and pitchers because he still has one pitcher and one outfield spot to fill. I'm going to hope he does not take Delano DeShields. He's a guy that I like. As for what I'm going to do with this pick, I actually have Jock Peterson ranked higher than DeShields, so I'm going to select him, ruin the Dodger drafters day, although I'm sure he's just an auto picker at this point. And we'll see what our friend here does. He took Sean Tolleson, and let's see. How many closers does that give for him? Oh, he took a catcher, Salvador Perez. Breaking the mold. Good for you. He has Tolleson, K-Rod, Melanson, and Trevor Rosenthal as his closers. And then at starter, he has Scherzer, Arrieta, Harvey, Archer, and Liriano. That is a very, very good pitching staff, and you gave up your entire offense to get it. Not the way that I draft, but, maybe it'll work for him. Who knows? So, yeah, right now, what am I doing? Take a pitcher? Take another outfielder? I could take the Shields here. Doesn't seem bad. I would really lock up saves for me. Let's take a brief look at these draft standings that they post. Right now, I'm ranked 6th. Very competitive in stolen bases. Competitive all across the board in offense, really. And then, where I'm giving it up is in, wins and strikeouts relative to some of these other teams. I do have a good start on saves. That's good. I don't know. I'm tempted to go with the Shields here, but, looking forward, I don't think it's that important that I grab a guy like that. I think what's better would be to take a pitcher that I want, but not one who's, ranked a little further down, like Taijuan Walker, like Carlos Rodon. So I'm going to take Raisel Iglesias. And I don't feel great about that pick. That's a little early for me to be drafting him, but, the hype, it does seem legitimized. He's a good pitcher. Anyway, looking forward to the next few rounds. Hopefully, get the Shields coming back, and then worry about, middle infield, utility, and catcher. Just briefly, I guess we could touch on what middle infielders I like to target late. Let's see. Brett Laurie is a fine one. Ian Desmond is interesting, but he's another just batting average black hole that I don't like. Addison Russell's probably ranked too low. Kang, while, not currently healthy, should be good once he comes back. Devin Travis is another guy who's not healthy, but who you can stash on your DL spot. Kendall Marte, should be a good source of speed there in Seattle. Jonathan Scope, on the other hand, should be a good source of power, although he has that same issue as Desmond, where his batting average may not be that good. Spangenberg in San Diego, could lead off there. Who knows? That would be interesting. That's kind of the list. Starlin Castro, who was drafted right before me, there is another guy I tend to like in later rounds. I think he's a little undervalued. Catchers, let's briefly overview those as well. They're all just kind of guys to me. Darno's the only one who I'm really willing to pay for. But that doesn't mean you couldn't pay for, I don't know. Yeah, really none of these guys stand out to me, but Real Muto is interesting. I like Hundley because he's, chips in batting average, which is a little uncommon relative to the other catchers. Yan Gomes, Yasmani Grandal. A little further down, Sweetheart or Swihart, however you pronounce it. And then, just some of the boring guys, Wellington Castillo, Miguel Montero. Take your pick. You only need one in these sorts of leagues. It's not too important to lock one up early. I usually wait till one of the last few rounds to get my catcher. Pitchers, I feel like I've talked about plenty. You can see these rankings over here on the left side of the screen. Check those out at the Fake Baseball if you're interested to know how I value these pitchers relative to one another. But yeah, I mean, I guess at this point I've talked long enough. We can see what happens with these next two picks. What have we missed so far? After I took Iglesias, Jay Bruce, Papelbon, V-Mart, Ender Inciarte, Drew Storen, Tanaka, Kang, Gordon, Lowry, Duda, Betances, Casimir, Vogt, and Matz were all taken. I like that value on Matz. Tanaka's another good get. I mean, he's an injury risk, sure, but at this point in the draft, there's not a whole lot of risk in just taking him. If this were, something that I was really going all out for, I think my next two picks would probably just be pitchers. I would take Taijuan Walker and Carlos Rodon if they made it to me. The way the draft is shaping up, where there's no urgency to take those guys just because they're ranked so far down, DeShields is one of the picks I would make instead. So, take DeShields, get that last outfield spot locked up, and then probably take one of the pitchers that I want. Let's see. Ian Desmond, Hisashi Iwakuma, Curtis Granderson, Jose Reyes, Jake McGee, Wei-Yin Shen just flew off the board. So DeShields, yeah, man, I've been talking about him for 3 rounds. This feels like a nice spot to get him. That rounds out my outfield. I have speed everywhere, which is really nice. That would line this team up well for a trade if, these managers were actually going to be active and pay attention to this league, which unfortunately it looks like they're not going to. Yeah, I don't know. Looking forward to what else I would do here. It's probably not critical to take these pitchers because, again, they're all just buried in the ESPN rankings. All these auto drafters are going to take them. So I am drafting against the rankings. I'm not drafting against people. And with that in mind, I should look at who's available here. Who might I want for this team? Andrew Miller is interesting. He should start the year as the Yankees closer. We'll see what happens, when Chapman comes back. But I have a feeling Miller's going to stay involved there. He's probably still going to get some saves. And we don't know that for sure, but, he could be a nice get here. I mean, what other relievers are available, I guess, is the question. Still enough. I mean, yeah, I think it's either starter or middle infield. I could take Addison Russell here. That's what I'm thinking of. And, as a middle infielder with the rest of this offense around him, that's pretty good value. Just quickly look at who else is available at middle infield. I haven't drafted Russell anywhere. I might as well get him on one team. So we'll add him to the roster. And we're going to call it quits there. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate you spending your time with me here on the internet. Make sure to check out our rankings. Check out all the other great work here at thefakebaseball.com. Good luck. This is, the week of drafts. It's upon us. It's time to, put in those last-minute preparations, keep up on the news and notes, and really try to, stick it to your league mates in the draft because while you can't necessarily win your league from the draft, you can lose it. You got to make sure you don't make horrendous picks, pick guys who are, already hurt or anything like that. Here I go rambling again. Just, man, I can't stop talking about fantasy sports, fantasy baseball in particular. It's one of my favorite times of year. Have fun. Good luck. Catch you next time. I'm out.